Hello, welcome back to our subject, Contemporary World. And we are still in chapter 1, titled Defining Globalization. And we are done with the introduction, and we are targeting to finish these 4 topics, which are the task of defining globalization, metaphors of globalization, solid and liquid, and flows. Okay, let's start with the task of defining globalization. So the literature and the definitions of globalization reveal that definitions could be classified either a broad and inclusive or a narrow and inclusive. So let's discuss first the broad and inclusive. So the broad and inclusive globalization describes the opportunity by which the people or factors behind a certain development in a country benefit as well. Therefore, in broad and inclusive globalization, it gives everyone a chance to participate in the management in such a way that the perspectives or plans a country have is reflected in their policies. And this leads to more secured opportunities, and it can benefits for everyone. And that is broad and inclusive. While the narrow and exclusive, in the English language, exclusivity is the restriction or the limitation within a group, area, or people. So in terms of globalization, the narrow and exclusive means that the focus of the globalization would be limited to the country alone. Again, the broad and inclusive, muna siya ang maka-benefits for everyone all over the globe. While the narrow and inclusive, it would be limited to that country alone. And I hope that you know the differences between broad and inclusive versus narrow and exclusive globalization. Again ha, ang broad and inclusive, isa to siya, a country benefit as well. While ang narrow and exclusive, mo na siya ang, it would be limited to the country alone. Okay, next. A more recent definition was given by Ritzer, year 2015. And he said, globalization is a transplanetary process or a set of process involving increasing liquidity and the growing multi-directional flow of people, objects, places, and information, as well as the structures they encounter and create that are barriers to or expedite those flows. Page 2. So generally, this definition assumes that globalization could bring either or both integration and or fragmentation. Although things flow easily in a global world, hindrances or the structural blocks are also there or also present. And these blocks could slow down one's activity in another country or even can limit the places a person can visit. And that's according to Ritzer year 2015. Next, in a more recent by Al Rodan year 2006, he wrote that definitions suggest the perspective of the author on the origins and the geopolitical implication of globalization. And by the way, the overview of definitions implies that globalization is many things to many different people. And one of those is si Al Rodan year 2006. And geopolitical here, mo na siya ang, of course, political. So, mo na siya ang relating to politics. Malamang, di ba? Referring to politics, mo na siya ang geopolitical, uh, especially in international relations. Mo na siya ang geopolitical. Next, overall, globalization is a concept that is not easy to define. Nga naman. Again, overall daw, ang globalization daw is a concept that is not easy to define. Why? Because in reality, ang globalization has a shifting nature. It is a complex, multifaceted, and can be influenced by the people who define it. And more importantly, the fact that we experience globalization should give one the interest of engaging in the study of it. And that is the reason why globalization is a concept that is not easy to define. Moreover, the issues and concerns involving globalization have a wide range from the individual to society, from small communities to nation and states, and from the benefits we can gain from it to the cost it could carry. And I hope that you have an idea on how you are going to define globalization as your own and to know the task of globalization. And now let's proceed to the metaphors of globalization. So in order for us to better understand the concept of globalization, we will utilize metaphors. So what is metaphors? So metaphors make use one of term to help better understand another term. So in our case, the states of matter, solid, and liquid will be used. And in addition, other related concepts that are included in the definition, such as structure and flows, will be elaborated also. So now let's start with the solid and liquid metaphors. Solidity also refers to barriers that prevent or make difficult the movement of things. Furthermore, solids can either be a natural or a man-made. Like for instance, example of natural solids are landforms and bodies of water. So man-made barriers include the Great Wall of China and the Berlin Wall. An imaginary line such as the Nine-Dash Line used by the People's Republic of China in their claim to the South China Sea is an example of modern man-made solid. And that example, ang kaning example, kani siya, kani akong gibasa, it creates limited access of Filipino fishers. Diba? We're talking about here, the South China Sea is an example of modern man-made solid. So, and that example creates a limited access of Filipino fishers to the South China Sea. And this example is still exists naagihapon siya up to date. However, they have the tendency to melt, and this should not be taken literally. Like an iceberg melting, diba? Instead, this process involves how we can describe what is happening in today's global world, and it is becoming an increasingly liquid. And that is the solidity or solid. Next, we have the liquidity. Liquid as a state of matter, it takes the shape of its container. Moreover, liquids are not fixed. Remember that. Again, liquids are not fixed. So, liquidity therefore refers to the increasing ease of movements or movement of people, thing, information, and places in the contemporary world. And according to Zygmunt Bauman's idea, where the ones that have much say about the characteristics of liquidity, and that's according to Zygmunt Bauman's. So I will give one example of ideas of Bauman's about this liquidity. For instance, videos uploaded on YouTube or Facebook are unstoppable once they become viral. So the so-called internet sensations become famous not only in their homeland but also to the entire world. Okay, di ba? If we base on the definition, it says that increasing ease of movement of people, thing, information, and places in the contemporary world. And that is the best example of liquidity. Ang katong videos uploaded on YouTube or Facebook, or the so-called internet sensation. Next, liquidity and solidity are in constant interaction. However, liquidity is the one increasing and proliferating today, ang liquidity. Okay? Therefore, the metaphor that could best describe globalization is ang liquidity. Diba? Again, ang liquidity, yung sa atong liquidity, mao na siya ang increasing ease of movements of people, thing, information, and places in the contemporary world. And also, it should be expected that this concept will appear in the succeeding lessons. And I hope that the concept is clear to you. And now we will be discussing the other metaphor, which is flows. So the previous metaphors, kung katong solid and liquid, it describes the melting process of the solid phenomena followed by the increasing in liquidity. And it is only logical to discuss the flows of liquid phenomena. So now let's define what is flows. So flows are the movement of people, things, places, and information brought by growing porosity. So the best example of flows or flow is the virtual flow of legal and illegal information such as blogs and child pornography. So related yapon to ang katong so-called niya internet sensation. So respectively, and immigrants recreating ethnic enclaves in host countries. And a concrete example is the Filipino communities abroad and the Chinese communities in the Philippines. And that is flows. Inana na siya ka-simple. Dili na ta mag-good heaper kay magarambola na ang all. Okay? Again, ang flows mo na siya ang movement of people, things, places, and information brought by a growing porosity of limitation. And that's according to Ritzer year 2015. Again ha, dapat dili mo maglibog sa flows and sa liquidity. Ang liquidity, mata siya ang refers to the increasing ease of movement of people, thing, information, and places in the contemporary world. While ang flow are the movement of people, things, places, and information brought by growing porosity of global limitation. And I hope that this concept is clear to you. And now let's proceed to the next. Wala na di ay. The end na di ay sa to ang discussion for today. So thank you for listening, and I hope that you learned a lot from this video. And if naglibog pa mo na pa may doubt about our discussion, pwede ra jud mo mubalik og watch ani nga video to better understand. Again, thank you for listening, and I hope that you learned a lot from this video. Keep safe and God bless us all. Thank you.